So I want to start by telling you a little bit about where we came from to get here. So I traveled from Maine yesterday, from the farthest reaches of the east coast of this country. And I teach at an experiential high school program that's very small in nature. It's an interdisciplinary program. It's located at a nonprofit called the Cobscook Community Learning Center. And at the Learning Center, it's our goal to provide responsive educational opportunities that strengthen personal, community, and global well-being. So the high school program is a piece of this greater work that we do. Within our high school program, we're leaning really heavily on the concepts of experiential education and interdisciplinary approach. So when this project came across my email, my interest was piqued immediately. It's like, so, you know, you got the STEM buzzword in there, and talking about being able to look at these interdisciplinary strands and how they overlap. It was exactly the kind of stuff that we're looking for. And that's before I mentioned that I've been a guitar player for 10 years and been involved with music for about 25 years. So our program seemed like a perfect fit for this project. There were some real challenges that we were facing. So we ended up getting accepted to come to the project, the training workshop. And I got to tell you, when I walked in the doors at the school in Berwick, I was immediately feeling a sense of dread. Their workshop is the size of the classroom space that I have. And they're fully outfitted with all the tools that you can imagine, spray booths, all kinds of stuff. We have none of that. I had a pottery studio on campus that's fit for doing clay work, and that was about it. So initially, I felt like, well, this is going to be fun for me, but implementing this back home is going to be a real challenge. Fortunately, the group of people that I was with helped that feeling of dread go away very, very quickly. I connected with all the teachers that were present, folks from across the state and even further afield. Being able to work with Tom and Chad really helped me feel like we were going to be able to bring this to fruition. Being someone who works in a nonprofit, I'm really familiar with the work of grant writing, really familiar with being able to sell a project to a funder. And this project is a project that sells. It's hands-on, it's interdisciplinary, and that buzzword STEM, like that's what they all want to hear now, is that you're doing what's on the cutting edge. So I felt like this was going to be easy. There was going to be no struggle for us to get the money to do this. So we had outlined some funders after we left. We felt like we had a good roadmap to bring in the money together to outfit our wood shop and to make things work in our school. We started to implement our fundraising efforts in grant writing, and we reached roadblock after roadblock. I was very surprised by all of that, but that was just the way it was. We had one funder left on our table, and we felt confident that we might be able to sway these folks. And we got into some conversation with them. They got our proposal. They felt pretty good about it, and they said, we'd be happy to fund you in this project, but we're only going to let you build 10 instruments. So we're gonna fund you to build 10, and that's it. And we said, okay, well, we'll see what we can do with that. Last year I had 13 students in my class, and 10 is not 13. And I don't know that this project works necessarily with students paired up on guitars. I know, there's investment things, like how do you get a student invested in such a sizable project? So we processed that information. We said, how are we gonna go forward? We said, well, what if we take the money from this funder and put it towards 10, and then the students can raise the rest to bring us to 13. We brought that idea to the funders, and they said, absolutely not. We're funding 10, and that's what you'll build if you take our money. And we said, well, okay. So we went back to the students, and I have a group of some of the most determined, diligent, hardworking students that you could ever imagine. So we get back to school, and we sit down, and I tell the students the news. I say, this is what we can do. We can build 10 instruments as a group. We can draw straws for who takes them home at the end of the year, or we can respectfully tell these funders that we appreciate the consideration, but we're going to do it our own way. And the students didn't miss a beat. They said, yeah, that's what we're telling them. We're going to do it ourselves. And that was what I expected to hear. So that's where we went. And we outlined a roadmap to figuring out how we were going to do this. And I think, again, standing here a year later, there were about 4 things that led us to that success. So the first thing, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these. Again, I probably only have about 10 more minutes, so I'm going to give you a snippet of what we did and how it made it work for us. But the first was to go beyond STEM. So as an interdisciplinary program, and as someone who's not a technology teacher, I needed to take this further than STEM. I needed to incorporate art, I needed to incorporate language art, and we were also offering a career prep course last year. So I felt like there were some strong ties there. Within this work, we felt like coming from a rural community, if there's one thing that we have is strength in our community. So we were going to call on our community to help us get there. Given that we're in the digital age and you know, this is an option today, crowdfunding was something that felt like we could really call on that to bring in some money to help us close the gap. And documentation. It felt like the most important thing was to bring everyone into this project, to share with everyone what we were doing. So that's what we did. The first thing that we did was to, you know, go beyond STEM, as I said, and to incorporate this work in more courses than just science, technology, engineering, and math. And the first piece of work that we did was we challenged the students to outline a capital campaign that could help us raise the money that we needed to do this project. We figured that we need about $5,000, and I went to this workshop with my co-teacher, so we had $800 that we could call on from the guitar bucks if we were to do our piece of the work. So we added that in there, and then we got creative. We figured out how we could raise $5,000. Within the capital campaign, the students outlined a variety of different events that they were going to, you know, hold on our campus to bring in community. They wrote some extremely compelling fundraising letters to send out to individuals, family members, and community organizations sharing the project and asking that if they had the means to support us in any way they could. And then we did some crowdfunding as well. And it took no time at all. By November, my students had exceeded that goal by 50% and raised $7,500 through those three things that I mentioned. And it was amazing. Not only did it get us to the goal that we needed, it also really upped the ownership in this project. The students raised every dollar that went into it, and they, you know, they put in the work. So the work that was coming afterwards went much easier. The community support is really what did it for us. Within the fundraising letters, our students each wrote their own individual letter. They sent them out to some 25, again, family members, community organizations, and individuals that were out there in the community. And we raised, just through that work alone, on the order of $2,000. We, again, live in the poorest county in the state of Maine, one of the poorest counties in this country. So to have that kind of support was huge. It was absolutely huge. This brings us to crowdfunding. So $2,000 doesn't take us all the way there, but the crowdfunding piece, we felt like we could make that work. So we tied this in with some computer science related work we were doing. We got the students working on a really compelling video that we could put up on a crowdfunding site. We used a site called Generosity, which is a site that's tied in with Indiegogo, but has some specific guidelines around the use of funds and the projects that get funded. There's also a wide variety of other sites out there. Adopt a Classroom is one specific to education, and there's a number of other ones, obviously Kickstarter and Indiegogo, that are just for general projects, but there are education-specific crowdfunding sites out there that I encourage you to look at if you're trying to raise money for projects. So within that, we had hoped to raise a great deal of money. You can see the total right there. We didn't make a lot of money in crowdfunding. We live in a very small place, and I think the key to success with crowdfunding is really getting it out there. You know, so we had our students share this through their Facebook, through the web. We shared it, and we did our best to get it out as far as we could. We didn't bring in the money we thought we were going to bring in through that video. However, in the work of developing that video, our students outlined the script, and they really got down to the nuts and bolts of what they were hoping to get out of this project. So they outlined, you know, what are the impacts going to be on me? What am I going to take away from this? And they wrote that information on a whiteboard in our very own classroom. And at the CCLC campus, we have multi-use spaces. So sometimes there's groups in our classroom doing a variety of different things outside of the school day. And it just so happened that someone with a very large pocket was in our classroom for a project. They read the stuff that was on the board, the outline of this video that you've just seen a snippet of, and they said, that sounds great. I want to write a check right now. And they wrote a check for $1,500 that closed the gap for us. So all to say that, you know, our hope was that this video was going to bring us some really great funding, that wasn't what happened, but the work of getting there really did help share that story some more and helped us get closer to the goal. So the last piece for us that was of the utmost importance was the documentation piece. I felt really blessed in our workshop to have James Cordero there, who was documenting our entire workshop. And he was just sort of in the background, you know, all day, every day, snapping these candid shots of us working on instruments. And by the end of our workshop, there must have been 1,500 photos that he had on Flickr that we were able to paw our way through and look at. So that told me that, you know, I could take this back home, I could share this information with, you know, my administrators, my executive director, help compel them to fund the project. But it seemed like the next best thing for us to do was to document our work as best we could, not just in the build, but in this entire process that we were undertaking. So what I want to show you now is a video that we created that spans our entire build from beginning to end, a time-lapse video that we're using now to support the project as we move forward. This video was created by a student of mine who's sitting in the back of the room named Dylan. He's a graduate of our program. He was a part of our first build, and he was the person who really did all this documentation. I think the key to this, especially as an educator who's doing it on your own, is having someone there to document. I didn't have the time personally to take pictures of the kids as they were working because I was there working with them. So I might have 15 photos of this build on my phone. But thanks to Dylan and some of the expertise that he had and a $200 GoPro camera, we were able to create this video right here. So again, that's what helped us do it. So if there's anything you take from that, I hope you employ it yourselves. And thanks for listening to our story.